Trey Smith, who JD and I have kind of written off as something that we didn't think we were going to re-sign, and it's still up in the air. But the Athletics' Nate Taylor reported yesterday that there is optimism surrounding a Chiefs and Trey Smith long-term deal. And he put a label on it too. He gave a 5-year deal. There's optimism that a 5-year deal between the Chiefs and Trey Smith will be inked up soon. And Bob Fesco a little while ago, Chiefs radio guy, just wrote that said that things will be cleared up by early as this weekend. So we could see some more traction going on this with this Trey Smith stuff. I'm going to ask you a few questions after this, but this is Brett Veach talking about Trey Smith, and also Nate Taylor talking about the Trey Smith details.
I'm interested to see what Kansas City does. Trey Smith is somebody that has been outstanding for them this season and the last few seasons, and we've seen how important protecting Patrick Mahomes has to be. And Chase, if you asked me, even just the day before the Super Bowl, like, tell me where Trey Smith's going to go, I probably would have picked it. I probably would have said New England, or I would have picked a team that I know needs an offensive line. But from what I can gather, Kansas City's making it a priority to try to keep him.
Oh,
so
really?
I think
not tagging him, try to get a long-term deal.
I think they're going to try to get a long-term deal done with him. I think they're going to try to make every effort.
Wow.
So we'll see if they're going to be able.
That's
to
actually
get
huge
that
news
done.
because that's like the crown gem of the free agency class, in my opinion.
The race for the Chiefs to retain Trey Smith began this week.
Yep.
The Chiefs hope to do just that before 11 a.m. Central Time on March 10th, when agents of unrestricted free agents can enter contract negotiations with any interested team. Similar to last year with pass rusher Chris Jones, Brett Veach acknowledged today that re-signing Trey Smith is the team's top priority. There's growing optimism, just like last year, that Trey Smith might come back on a 5-year deal.
A 5-year deal?
Obviously be at the top of the list, and we've already had some good dialogue with him and with CAA and Torrey and Jimmy and his crew. So obviously a lot to work through, but I mean, this is the time of the year to do that. And again, we've already had some initial dialogue, and that will continue on this week and in the days to come leading up before free agency. So we'll certainly do what we can and feel, pretty optimistic about our possibilities there.
So JD, you played in the NFL for a very long time. When you hear this stuff, you're listening to words that we may not, that fans may not be listening to. All we're hearing is deal, that they're going to get it done. You're hearing the kind of the verbiage and the language that's being said. Now, Nate Taylor, one of the more respected Kansas City Chiefs guys who cover the team, one of the best beat writers for the team. He predicted this Chris Jones signing last year. He was the first one that came out with that last year. But for him to say the 5-year deal with Trey Smith, it's one thing to say they got a deal where they're going to sign something, but to say 5 years, I think it's very interesting. He points that out and says that. But it's just surrounding as far as growing optimism that he will sign a 5-year deal. And then obviously Brett Veach says there's optimism surrounding a deal with him. And that was the first clip was Diana Rossini from The Athletic as well. She also says that she's trying their hardest to get a long-term deal done with him. Now you hear all these reports and whatnot, JD. You and I last week, 2 weeks ago, we thought that Trey Smith, foregone conclusion, he's probably gone. He's gonna hit the head with a giant contract, break the guard market wide open. This today, after hearing all these reports, what do you make of all these reports? Do you think there's some legs to this, that he may come back on a 5-year deal, or is this potentially agents kind of throwing this stuff out there, teams throwing this stuff out there? What do you make of all the stuff we're hearing about this Trey Smith potential deal?
You know what, man? Marcus, I'm at a point now, okay? And I think I said this on Twitter too. The mouth says anything. And what you just showed me was everybody else talking except Brett Veach. And when I saw Brett Veach is actually speaking about it, Brett Veach was like, "Oh, well, yeah, we're going to try to get something done. And we want to, try to definitely do this. Well, we got a contingency plan also in place if something didn't work." And, I heard him actually address this conversation in the interview when he was speaking. And so I get, look, every beat writer, sports guy wants to be the first one to break this news. They do, right? I mean, that's part of it, because when people come to you, they're like, oh man, the guy's legit. I love Nate. I do. I think he does a hell of a job. I always check him, man. He's very funny, man. Good dude. But I'm one of those, man. Wait till the pen is on the paper. Pen to paper. That's what it is. That's what it is to me right now, to be honest with you. We could talk about 5-year deals, 4-year deals, and whatnot, trying to sign Trey Smith. Absolutely, it'd be a wonderful thing to do something like that if we could get something like that done. But right now, what it's just talk. It's just conversation. And so it's not like Brent Veach is going to come and say, well, we're not going to sign Trey Smith. We're not going to try to work with him or Bolton or any other guy. This conversation has to be, yeah, this is a priority. And I'm not saying it's not. I do agree that it is a priority to sign a Trey Smith. Can they get something like that done? It'd be beautiful if they can. Now, I don't know if you see this up on the board, but I'm looking at some of this right here, right? About what's the price point we're going to be able to get get a Trey Smith for, right? We're talking about a 5-year deal. So I'm looking over here, top paid offensive guards right now, Dickerson from Philadelphia, okay? Dickerson is making $21 million a year, okay, in his contract. That's what he's making, right? The 10th highest paid guard in the league is no other than our own Joe Tooney at $16 million, okay? 10th highest guard being paid $16 million. Now, my thing is this. If we're sitting here, we're saying Joe Tooney is the 10th highest paid guard at $16 million. Trey Smith was going to want somewhere in between the 16 and 21 because that's where the market is, right? I mean, I would suspect him to be. So just like, Chase was sitting there saying, like, hey, man, this is one of the top priorities in as far as free agency, the cream of the crop. He's going to want having a nice contract based off his play and who he is. And to be honest, that's what the market says. They should get paid accordingly. So I don't know how they're going to be able to work the 5 years out. They'd be able to work the 5 years out to make it something that's beautiful. Trey Smith, absolutely. Trey Smith needs to be paid. So it has to be something to be able to pay the man. And he should. His boy right next to him, Creed Humphrey, just got a 4-year, $72 million deal, okay? With $18 million signing bonus, $50 million guaranteed, and an average salary of $18 million. So he got Joe Tooney on the left guard, $16 million, okay? We got the guy right there in the middle, okay? Creed Humphrey, sitting there making $18 million. And Trey Smith, right guard, who's taking advantage of the market as he should get somewhere around upwards to 19 a year, 20, if that. So that's where this money is going to be. And I'm sure they're working out a deal. I'm sure they're doing it. I'm sure they're making talks. Trey needs to be compensated. I'm on the side of the players all day. And so we got to make sure that, he is fairly compensated for what he does. You want a man, we got to be able to pay him. So it's in our best interest to try to get this thing done now as soon as possible. My thing is this, okay? There's other priorities that we have to follow as well, okay? We don't have a left tackle, right? We don't have a left tackle, not as of yet. I know they're watching the draft too. So they're at the combine for a reason. They're at the reason because they want to see how guys look. They want to see the guys that they're going to get. They know what they already have in-house. They know that. So they're looking and they're making all these decisions and talking to all these other different people. And hey, things change. Brett Veach has said so. There's contingency plans out here if things don't work out. So right now, man, this is conversation, man. This is GM talk. This is the way I look at it. And if they're able to get something done, fine. But for me, I'm tired of speculating. I'm tired of the conversation around it, man. Ink to paper. Okay, that's when I know it's going to be a done deal. Other than that, man, we sitting over here. We talking. So there's a lot of conversations. I just, for me, for the life of me, everybody's, oh, here's coming this good. Fine. Okay. Sounds beautiful. Sounds great. But ink to paper is what I want to see, Marcus, at this point. So that's my spill on the whole thing. All right. That's what I think.
Seeing the comments in here, some are saying that Trey Smith is better than Dickerson. He'll get paid more than Dickerson. Tasia, shout out Tasia.
Hey,
It's a weak for agency crop that only helps Trey, which is what Diana Rossini kind of said, that because it's kind of a weak free agency, they might just go out and just keep their own guys, spend what they need to spend for them. And then this is something that I've seen a lot of in this barbershop. Shout out, buddy. Question: does signing Trey Smith fix our offensive line problems? And that's the one thing that I've seen a lot of people saying. Is we had the highest paid interior offensive line going into that Super Bowl, and we got dominated by bringing Trey Smith back. That doesn't really help what was happening in that game, which we were getting dominated on the size there, and you kind of alluded to it. We both are ones that don't really want to go to the draft and draft a left tackle. I know you said DJ Humphries, bring him in. I'm on the side of bringing in Cam Robinson or a veteran guy who's like a Cam Robinson type of guy. But this doesn't really help that, and maybe it may hurt it. But but the one thing I've read in that same podcast where Nate Taylor talks about, they said the fifth year, they said by doing it that way, they can maybe offer Trey like $8 million this year and then kind of backload that contract where by the time he gets to the end of that, it's more like one of those things where, you could say you're the highest paid guard in the league based on your contract, but really it's backloaded towards the end of the deal by putting in 5 years. What do you make of the whole idea that we're going to keep our interior offensive line, potentially kind of leaving that left tackle spot being the same kind of issue that we have after signing Trey Smith? I think that's where a lot of people are kind of concerned about.
Okay, so two things there. All right, and I'm gonna address that one in itself. I don't mind the continuity of having those three guys there. Okay, does it help solve our problems? Sure, because you know what you got, right? You got some guys on the inside that are very dominant, and when they're good, they're playing really good. Okay, and there's issues and problems that like anybody else in the other line, but we know those three inside is a solid group of guys. Some things I want to see better for me, and so I think that continuity is great for the offensive line. The left tackle is still an issue. That's the biggest issue and a problem, I think. It's not necessarily inside. You know why? Because we have depth at guard. We do. So we signed Norzad. We got Wanya Morrison. We got King Sumate, who I think you said before that Andy was sitting there talking like, hey, man, he might just be a guard. Okay. There's a lot of dudes that, and he looked good at guard. So do you necessarily, you have depth there at that guard situation. So G-Pick says, hell no, it doesn't fix it. It stays pretty much relatively the same as we're looking for. And I will say this also too, Marcus. If you're not running the football, then you're not utilizing the guys up front like you should. Trey Smith, somebody said, I think it was G-Pick was saying that he was our most violent offensive player. And he was. He road raced guys. Those guys, man, let those guys up front eat. Let them eat. And so if you're sitting there having them, sit back all the time, I'm like, you're not giving the guys what they want. You're not utilizing your offensive line like they should be used. And so to me, that's the disappointing part. That's just me. Okay, that's my own opinion here, right? Because I think it's a shame that we don't run the football like we should be running the football. Okay, especially when you have guards and centers up front who do a great job of rooting guys out. That's just the reality. So we don't necessarily do it. The second thing that you said, this is what I don't like about just getting small money up front. Okay, signing bonus money in your pocket is king all day. It's there all day. Unless this is a guaranteed contract, guaranteed the full years, I wouldn't do it. I'm not at all. Shoot, set me up, pay my money now. Don't sit it back, when something had happened to me, I get hurt and all of a sudden let me go. No, no. We're not taking any wooden nickels. We ain't doing that. You ain't anybody get me on a deal and smile on my face and hey man, this is how the game works. This is how the game works. But they say, man, a sucker's born every second, man. Just don't be that guy just born that second, right? And so this is the job of your team your agent and those guys to make sure the money's right, the contract's right. Hold them account. Hold them to account. That's what you do. Hey man, no, we're not doing that. If Trey Smith is the most coveted free agent out there at guard or on the line, we're making sure that we're going to go ahead and we're going to benefit from that, right? We'll take advantage of it as he should. Nothing wrong. There's nothing against what the Chiefs are. Hey man, you know you got one of the most talented guards in the game, right? Pay the man what he deserves. Like Melly Matrix, that's funny money. It is. Man, look, we ain't anybody do that. I remember the movie Knockaround Guys. You ever seen that movie? Okay.
Yeah.
And Vin Diesel comes in and the dude, sitting over there, he if y'all haven't seen it, y'all have to check it out. So the guy at the store holds the money. He got a vending machine. He holds the money. Vin Diesel comes in. He checks it. He sees that the vending machine has been played and people have been using it. So he comes back and looks at the guy. He comes over and says, "Hey, man, where's the money at?" He's like, "I don't have any of it today." So Vin Diesel comes in and he just starts beating up the machine, right? His own machine, beating it up. He comes back to the shop owner, grabs him by the throat. He's like, "Man, the potato chip guy gets paid. The pop guy gets paid. Everybody around here gets paid. How is it that you want to try to take some money from me?" And so Trey Smith's got to do that. When he goes in, he got to make sure, hey, you paying everybody else, but you make sure you pay me too. Bottom line. So Knockaround Guys. Great movie. Go check it out, man.
It's a good movie.
Stuff.
Tasia made a comment about this whole contract thing. He said, honestly, they'll give him 21 plus per season, but they'll use that fifth year to bloat the hell out of the overall numbers.
Yeah, and usually they'll do that. But, Tage, my thing is this. You make sure that money is up front. You make sure that signing bonus is good money that you're giving me. That's what I want. I want that signing bonus to reflect what I've done, okay? So let me get the money right now. Why? Because I could go ahead and earn interest and things like that on that money as opposed to you all owning it and me not, benefiting off that. So look, it's a business, man. This is NFL. This is the way it works. So when you come into negotiations, sometimes, man, you got to look at each other square in the face and like, hey, I want to be here. I do. I love it here. I love the guys. I love everybody in the organization. But do right by me. Just do right by me. So if that's the case and it does happen, so be it, right? But like I said, Marcus, I'm going to go back to what I said before. Ink to paper. Ink to paper. So.
Tage says, well, not totally up front. He. This year around 7 to 8, and then next year can go up a lot when Taylor's money is gone.
So we'll see.
Amda wants to know how much of signing bonus goes against the cap. JD, do you know?
I think so. If it's guaranteed money, I think it's going to go against the cap immediately.
No.
Or they could defer it. I think also too, Amda Brown. There's a way they could work around it. You can manipulate it a lot of different ways. So so don't check me on this. Yeah, I had to go and check it. I had to look to make sure. But that money, because it's in your pocket right now, they may be able to defer it where it doesn't count against the cap that year. So I don't know how much they can actually, push back that. But I think it goes against the cap immediately. I'm not sure.
Just a quick AI search. Yes, signing bonuses count against the salary cap.
Yeah, it's guaranteed money. It's guaranteed. What's up, Drew Boucher? See some other people come in here tonight too. Sasha's in the house. What's up, Sasha? Ricky Brew, what's going down? So he said, Trey Smith I like better than Dickerson, but I like Tooney better because he gets flagged less. But that's just me. If he likes to keep winning, then take 17 and get a left tackle in the draft and keep winning. Hey, Ricky, my brother, sounds great. Trey may not want just 17. If his boy that signed last year, Creed Humphrey, got 18, Joe Tooney's making 16, and you're looking at all these other guys, Joe Tooney's 10th. He's making 16. Top paid is getting 21. There's no reason Trey has to take 17. Sorry. Hey, man. Hey, pat me on the back all you want to. Appreciate it. Hey, pat me on the back and give me 20. How about that? Or 21. Okay.
Does let me ask you, JD. obviously you weren't in this situation, right? Trey Smith it was a 6th round pick. A lot of teams just passed on him because of his medical red flags, the blood clots. I believe that's what it was. Is there any goodwill with a team? Obviously, 6th round pick, we've been paying him pennies on the dollar over the last 4 years. Is there any goodwill that a player may have with a team that did take a chance on him? Because, I mean, in this case, they did take a chance on him. He was a medical red flag, and that's why a lot of teams passed on him. If there is any, like, kind of, not discount or anyway, but maybe a little bit of a discount because, like, there is a little goodwill there because you were a team that when a lot of teams said, heck no, you guys were there to draft me.
Hey, man, listen, Trey Smith has fulfilled every obligation they asked him to do. So you're compensating for it. That's what it is. You got a 6th round pick that came in and started immediately, and he started knocking everybody's heads off. I think you did actually pretty well with that, right? So you know what you was getting. You know, the whole thing, the whole medical issue was holding everybody else back. Trey knew what he had. You know, he knew what he had. Didn't matter who was able to get it. Trey was going to do it anyway. Didn't matter where he was going. He was going to go and knock heads off. Eastern Kentucky's head coach, Walt, he's there. He used to be Trey Smith's O-line coach down in Tennessee. And we were just talking about Trey Smith. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to try to have a conversation with Trey. He's like, man, look, he said, man, he is an absolute baller, a mauler. He said, man, when I'm telling you, just a physical guy up front, the things he does, great human being and whatnot. And we could see this, you know, in his interviews, how he carries himself when he's out there in the community. Trey Smith brings the entire bag there. You got what you want in that guy. Pay the man. It's that simple. There ain't no sense going in and trying to lowball a guy like him. It's not. He warrants making, you know, $20 to $21 a year, $21 million a year. So pay him. Right? Hey man, look, we ain't doing each other favors for 17. Why do that? Cut your own legs off? No, sir. So it's the same thing we were talking about Chris Jones. Everybody talking about breaking Chris Jones. Well, guess what? We didn't have no depth there. We didn't have anybody else besides Chris Jones. Name me somebody that we was going to be able to get that was going to be worth with Chris Jones and what his impact was.
Well, gosh, who was the number 2 DT that got signed by the Raiders? He got hurt midseason this year. The Dolphins had him last year.
Yeah,
I forget his name.
Yeah,
he was solid, but he wasn't Chris Jones by any means.
Yeah. So everybody was mad. I didn't want to pay Chris that money. Man, Chris deserved that money. Why? Because there wasn't any other Chris Jones out there. Okay, Trey's he's taking advantage of the market as he should. So
Christian Wilkins,
that's it. Wilkins.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about it. But here's the thing. Brett Beachton wasn't sitting there talking about a contingency plan with Chris Jones. They weren't saying that. There wasn't no talk like they needed to get it done. That was like, hey, man, we got to go all the way in with this, right? They just didn't want to get their back beat in by the contract. You know what I'm saying? That's all they didn't want to do. You know, everybody started, he's this 30 and 29. He's going, man, look, shoot. The man's the most dominant D tackle in the game. No question about it. So if you want to sit there and you want to negotiate these certain deals, Brent Veach is talking about contingency plans there. Why? I think because this is just GM speak, they may not be fully engaged to say, hey, maybe we don't want to pay $21 million a year for Trey Smith. So, hey, man, I've seen it all before. I've been in negotiations plenty of times, Marcus. I know how this thing works.
Do you get a little PTSD hearing the GM talk about that stuff?
Nah, hey man, it's a business. NFL is a business, and I understood it after my first contract. I understood exactly what it is. I knew exactly what it was, and so you got to go in with that mindset. Okay, you got your business suit. You bring your briefcase. You get your guys talking, and it's all about business at this point. Take your emotions out of it. And hey, we did you a favor by getting you. No, you didn't. I did you a favor for knocking everybody's face mask off that came in front of me. That's what I did. So there it is.
Yeah, and that's now that Sherry's bringing up a good point. It's not like Chiefs saved $21 million losing Smith. They have to replace him. So how much do you actually save with a different guard? That's kind of what JD's talking about. We have the guards in house, right? We spend a lot of draft capital to the offensive line, a guy who we thought was going to be a tackle. And that's one thing too. yesterday, amongst all this contingency plan talk, you have Andy Reid, you have Brett Veach both talking about how Kingsley is a guard. They're not even talking about him as a tackle anymore. He's transitioned to guard, which is pretty interesting. In a year, the guy's just become a full-on guard, which, I mean, I've seen some fans be pissed off about the miss of a draft pick that, you guys thought you had a tackle and now he's a guard, pretty much a transition over there now. But that's someone who, whether it is, if they don't sign Trey Smith, there you go, you put him at that guard spot. But if Tooney, who maybe I think has 1 or 2 years left on his deal, then you have that guy, and he was playing left guard in that last game of the season. Then you have him playing in that spot potentially. So, I mean, it does give you some kind of optionality if they keep Trey and they get rid of Tooney in a year or two.
See, and here it's an easier job to replace a Trey Smith than getting like maybe a left tackle. It's easier, because like you got Keem Sumate, you got Wanye Morris that can play that position. You got Norzad as another guy. Heck, they're gonna go get a guy in the draft that's very good. Some of those tackles that everybody's coming in to try to get that I think are more guards than they are tackles. They could be very good guards in the game. If you wanted to go to the draft and do something like that. So that's their contingency plan. So for the Chiefs, they're thinking about, man, maybe we can save money by not signing Trey Smith. I'm not sold until I see pen to paper. It's not me being negative or pessimistic. I'm just saying, I understand how these things go, negotiation and then signings.
What would be the, I guess the pro to kind of maybe, telling wherever Nate Taylor's hearing this, the 5-year thing, where would be kind of the leverage play by the Chiefs letting that get out? If it wasn't our plan at all to sign to a 5-year deal, what would be the play there to kind of save that? Or if that's the agent talking, really?
When you say what is the contingency plan?
No, not the contingency plan, but what would the Chiefs have to gain or Trey Smith have to gain by maybe leaking this to Trey Smith saying, hey, if I'm Trey Smith's agent, hey, Nate, Chiefs are thinking about giving us a 5-year deal and a 5-year contract.
Pure pressure. Put pressure on the Chiefs about what they want to do, right? And then you see maybe obviously the Trey Smith loyalists who come out there and bid for him, right? And people talk all on Twitter and the conversation around why Trey Smith is valuable, why he needs to be signed. One of our brothers, Ben Lance, was sitting there talking about it. Like, Trey's been here since he won the Super Bowls with Creed Humphrey. Yeah, he has, but that doesn't mean, he has to stay here. Can we get another guy here and win a Super Bowl? Possibly. Because I think, to be honest with you, it all depends on who that dude behind us is throwing the football to him. You got to protect him. But the thing is, you got to protect him up front, depth-wise, and on the outside. Okay, width. And the main thing that we got beat up in was that left tackle. Well, shoot, in the Super Bowl, we got beat up by everybody. Everybody took an L up front.
Yeah, all over the place.
That's right. Up front, everybody. You name it, they start, hey, we want a piece of you. And it's reality.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.